our Flash Latin lesson that goes along with part 2, our story about Thetis and Peleus's wedding. So a lot of times I find that newer students are a little confused about what is a conjugation and how do I conjugate a verb, and you want to conjugate the verb through that set of parameters, the present indicative active. Well, you're going to put it through its first, second, and third singular and plural forms. And that's conjugating. Then we have to understand that each verb belongs to its own conjugation. It's born into its own little family based on the forms we have in its dictionary entry. And there's 4, I like to say there's 4.5 verb conjugations or family sets, because as you know, there's the first conjugation, the second, the third IO, and the fourth. So I call the third IO kind of a half conjugation. It's its own conjugation, but it's more related to the fourth conjugation than any of the others. And I always also tell my students that everything third is more complicated. So you determine the conjugation based upon the second principal part or the infinitive. For laudo, it's laudare. Video is videre. Ago is agere. Capio, capere. Audio, audire. So those second sets there are your infinitives. The first conjugation is a long ARE. So your first conjugation, like laudo, laudare, laudavi, laudatus, is, and that I there should be long, I apologize. A long ARE is a first conjugation. Second conjugation is a long ERE. I don't know why I did that. As you see right there. The third conjugation is a short ERE, which you see in third and third IO. So macrons are actually important. They tell you a lot of things. The only difference, the only way you're going to know based on the infinitive is that second conjugation has a long ERE, third has short ERE. Okay? Now the difference between third and third IO is a little more complicated. So okay, yes, it's a third, but is it regular third or third IO? For that you have to look to the first principal part and see that there's an I in front of the final O for the first principal part. Then that makes it a third IO. And then the fourth conjugation is a long IRE. It too has the I there before the long O ending. And that is where the third IO and the fourth are sort of more related in a lot of senses in their conjugations than third to third IO. Okay? So that's how we determine it. At this point, hopefully you and your students are well aware of the endings for the present indicative active as OST, mustisnt. I discourage wholeheartedly just memorizing these endings alone. I fully encourage my students to put a verb in front of this. So laudo, laudas, laudat, laudamus, laudatis, laudant, amo, amas, amata, mamus, amatis, amant. For some reason it sticks a lot better when you go to use these verbs and recognize them than just memorizing the endings alone. But it is good to recognize them and see them, because now we're going to take the infinitive and turn it into a verb we can conjugate. So to do that, we drop the RE off. That's your infinitive ending. You drop that off, and everything else is used to conjugate. See over here? And they keep this part, they keep that vowel. And then you know how to put the verbs, the stem of the verb in with your endings, laudo, laudas, laudat, laudamus, laudatis, laudant. And you're going to do that with all first conjugations. And of course, this is how you translate all of those. And I am providing this slide set for you down in the comment, in the description. And then second conjugation, you're going to do the same thing, but that intervocalic is an E instead of an A. Makes sense, right? Considering that that has a long E there. Third is where things get a little tricky. In the third conjugation, your E or E, like ago, agere, egi, becomes an E. It elongates into the I, which sounds longer than the E, whether there's a macron or not. And you can see that there's no macrons here. So in the third, you're going to have ago, agis, agit, agimus, agitis, agunt. So I made it larger here so that you can see that this is not going to be an I. Right, because laudo becomes laudant, video becomes vident. Not in the third, it becomes a U here. So those are the things to keep that are different. Then when you look at the third IO, same thing, that E or sound becomes an E sound with the I becoming our vowel, but the I stays. See, it doesn't just turn into an I, it stays there in front of, like down here with capiunt, the I stays. Capio, the I's still there, and the I carries through everything. Whereas in the regular third, it is not there in the first singular or the third plural. The third IO is similar to fourth, more so than the others, because they both do the same thing. They keep the I for the first singular and third plural. They conjugate with an I as that intervocalic, and they keep the U down here instead of it just being an I. So audio, audis, audit, audimus, auditis, audiunt. Okay? So those are the basic things. I do show this to my students early on, but I don't require them to memorize anything beyond the first and second at first. Then we move into the third IO and fourth, and memorize those. But I show it to them early on because I find that they can recognize it and understand it, and they learn it a lot faster, at least having seen it. Whereas I know some systems only do the first conjugation, and then 2 months later the second conjugation. And I just find students learn it slower that way. And it's okay to say to them, guys, you don't need to have this 100% memorized. I just want you to have seen it, recognize it in the wild if you see it out there, and have some understanding of it. Okay. But I do have them practice determining the conjugations of verbs along with their vocabulary meaning. So when they're looking them up, they also have to, if they're putting it in their vocabulary, they need to put in the full dictionary entry, and whether it's first, second, third IO, or fourth. Okay. They practice conjugating each verb through the present indicative active. Now again, I do that with the first and second conjugation first for a while, and then we add in the third and the third IO and fourth as they start seeing those more in the wild when we're reading. And then we practice changing up the subjects and verbs of simple sentences so that they work through the present indicative active. So, you know, I will give them their list. I will give them amo, amare, or I'll just give them amo or amare, and they have to look it up. And and they have to put this in their dictionary entry, full dictionary entry like this, as well as the conjugation to which it belongs and what it means. This is more so ones that they can't remember. Amo is pretty common. I probably would rarely, if ever, ask them to do a basic one on amo, or well, the rest of these definitely could use that. But I do have them look these up and put the dictionary entries in and their conjugations and definitions without necessarily having them memorize how to conjugate each one. And then I provide them with these little sheets on papers full of these, and I give them words to look up, and I try to keep it in whatever one that they're learning that time, so that would be helpful to get your students memorizing this. But I don't focus 100% on memorizing being the most important thing. They do have to do some of it. We do a combination in our class of this memorizing of forms and yada 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 as we come along them in our readings. We do a lot more readings of novellas and stories and authors and stuff, and incorporate this as we go. So, gracias Tiago, esto bene. Remember, like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, check out the website, that way you can get more resources. I will have a few things linked below that are free as well. Sign up for the list and let me know if you have any questions. Wale!